Hello. Today we're going to go over the Plc Screen on the TCW, our water-cooled chiller. First thing we're going to notice, this here is your main screen. If at any time you get lost while you're navigating through this, be sure to hit the home button on the page and it'll take you back to this screen. Starting from the top, you'll notice that you have a date and time stamp. Friday, April 29th, it's 2:22 in the afternoon. Next thing you'll notice, you have your interlock, your status, and your RS-485. Right now we're showing a red interlock. That red interlock is there because circuit 1 is not running. The flow has been shut off to circuit 1. Okay? In fact, you're looking at circuit 1, compressor 1 right there. We'll go home screen, and there's your home screen shot. Basic information you're getting off this is your system demand, your actual loaded, your kilowatts you can see there, and then it also shows you your actual voltage that you're using. Over on the right hand side, it's giving you your condenser water temperature. Now again, this is a water-cooled unit as opposed to air-cooled units that we also have. The air-cooled unit will not have this display of the water temperature there. Okay, that's only for the water-cooled. Further down below, you're going to see where we have our set point, chill water temperature coming in, and then our leaving chill water temp is 50.6 degrees. If you look over to the right of that, you're going to notice over here that you have compressor 1 with red status, compressor 2 is a green status. Again, at the moment, we've stopped the flow to compressor 1. If we right arrow, you'll see circuit 1 again, and that interlock is red. Anytime you close the flow off to your evaporator, you open up that flow switch, which is in series with the blue reset button on the front of the panel. In any event, if either one of those are not closed, you're going to get a red interlock. Our status is green because there's no alarms, nothing's wrong, and it is still communicating. You're seeing the RS-485 flash green, red. There's no timestamp to that. It's not 2 seconds green, a second red. As long as it's blinking back and forth, you have your comms in action. It is talking. Next thing you'll notice below is your status in the white bar. C2 is in normal operation right now. Compressor 1 has demand, but interlock is open. Again, telling you that that flow switch is open. There's no water flow through that evaporator, thus the red interlock. Below that, we have a yellow alarm bar, and at this time, no faults or alarms. In the event you do get an alarm, it'll come up and tell you there's an alarm there. Looking further down at all the information you can get off this first screen, you have your demand, your IGB percentages, your actual kilowatts, estimated speeds, actual speeds. I'm going to flip over to circuit 2 now just so you can see those numbers in real time. Here we have 69.7% demand. Our inlet guide vane assembly is wide open at 110%. Our actual kilowatts are 49.7 and so on. You can see the numbers. We're actually running 32,800 RPMs. As we come down, we see our PX ratio is 2.7, 2.69. Then your superheat below that. This actual superheat is not what we're really using for our superheat. In this screen of circuit 2, if you down arrow about 3 screens, first arrow is going to give you some main information again. Your leaving water temps, temperatures of components inside, things we like to keep an eye on are our cavity temps, we like to keep an eye on our inverter temps, but it also gives you a lot more information, your voltages, your current draws, which are really nice. Your cooling solenoids on the compressor, right now you're picking 1. If we keep coming down arrow on this, we come into EXV1, which is our expansion valve. Open and closing like in any refrigeration circuit, that's what's metering your refrigeration. And you can see right now we're reading process value is at 11. That's what our superheat is reading at the moment. Valve percent open is 55. Your separate startup, these numbers don't change in here. They stay the same. The 2 numbers at the top, those are the ones we're going to be seeing things actually change as it's running. Your superheat will be changing and your valve will be opening and or closing depending on the load. If we come down again, we have our hot gas bypass or what's called load balance valve. Automatic control. Right now the unit's up and running, so you don't see much going on there. Everything is zeros. Usually you're going to see that at startup or when the system starts to wind down because the load's dropping off and it's becoming satisfied, then you'll see that hot gas bypass kick in, mainly just to keep the suction pressure up. You arrow down again, you're going to get to your analog controls. On a water-cooled unit, this is the water reg valve in the back tied up to the condenser inlet. And what it's showing us here is our starting output percent. And at the moment, it's 0, which is telling me that, oops, right now I'm going to go back to the home screen. Pretend I was lost and you didn't know what's going on. Go back to your home. Right arrow one time is circuit 1. And we can see that it's off. All zeros there, no demand. Right arrow again, we go to circuit 2. And we still have a demand there. So we come down, like we did before, go through those same numbers again. Down again, we'll get into our expansion valve, EV1. One more time down to EV2, which is our hot gas indoor load balance valve. Okay? And then below that, we're going to get into our discharge pressure valve, which is our water reg valve in this case. And what it's doing, it's got a floating head in here, so it's trying to maintain the 68.7 PSI. So the valve is actually closed right now, allowing very little flow through the condenser. Mainly because the water is cold, and you'll see something like that in your late fall, early springs. When you're getting cold tower water coming back, it'll start to actually pinch off. As this tells you here, the output starting percentage, when the unit first kicks on, that valve will go to 50%. When it's really cold outside and your tower water is cold, it'll drop that head pressure down quite a bit, allowing the compressor to have an easier startup, using less energy, less power, becoming more efficient. Going back up, we're going to go all the way up to the top of circuit 2 to where we can see how she's running again. The demand percentages, the IGV percentages. Also, we need to notice this Modbus control mode over here. Some chillers run in a chiller mode. Ours run in a Modbus control mode. The purpose of that is the PLC is controlling the compressors. Okay, what we're going to do next, we're going to go back to the home screen, and then I'm going to show you some areas under our toolbar that will help you set up, get things into Modbus, make sure that your settings in the right spots. What we'll do, we hit the tools. You see your water set points up here. If you wanted to change your set point on your water, you touch the number, it asks you for a password. That password is 7720. Hit your enter button. Now you can go back, touch that value, and then change it accordingly. Enter, and there it is again, 54. You hear the compressor slowing down, so what I want to do is I'm going to change that to a lower set point, which is going to make the compressors ramp up again. And it may even bring on the second compressor depending on how long it takes. When you're in this area and you've got that password, this is the only parameter you really need to change or mess with. The other parameters are preset. You really don't want to mess with those at all, especially the figures in here, which are our programming settings. If you change those settings, there's a good possibility you may alter the action of the chiller and it may not function the way you expect it to. And going back, we're going to go back to the home screen. We're going to go to our circuit 1 chiller, and we're going to hit the tools bar. You'll see you got 5 different setups here, from control valve, EXV valve control, EX2, your analog selection, and your RS-45 comms. Starting from the top, we touch on the control mode, and that's where you should read the Modbus control mode. If it does not read that, you can list up or down until you get to Modbus control mode, hit enter, and then move on to your next parameter, which in this case is going to be the EXV valve. And that's being controlled by liquid T flange P. Some things you may want to jot down just for future reference in the event you lose the parameters or somebody comes along and makes changes. The next one's going to be your load balance valve, or your EX2 valve. That setting is load balance. After that we go to RS-485 after that we go to the analog. The analog should always read discharge pressure. If it does not read discharge pressure, the unit will not operate properly. So it's very important that it says discharge pressure in the analog. Coming down, now we go to our comms, RS-485 comms. In the event that this little green light over here, the dot goes red on you, for some reason due to a power glitch, a surge possibly, a spike, you may have lost your comms. You can touch the word and you'll notice it goes red. Touch it again, it comes back green. When it goes red, you have no comms there. You have to touch it to go green. Usually you would see a password when I do that. The reason we haven't is because since I put in the latest password, I've been manipulating the screen. If you walked away from the screen for about 3 minutes, it will default out so someone can't come behind you and make changes that you're not aware of. If we right arrow from this position, we're going to go into compressor 2. Same screen, but compressor 2, which is really nice about this PLC. Instead of going all the way back up to the top of compressor 1 and then over and down compressor 2, you can move laterally between compressors. Especially nice if you want to look at, well, let's just go see. Here we are in compressor 1, and we want to look at the actual RPMs, or maybe the kilowatts. If you right arrow from there, it'll take you to compressor 2 in the same screen, so we can see the kilowatts. So if you're trying to compare notes on different compressors, you can go back and forth. Pretty much all that there is what we've gone through. In the event, again, like I mentioned earlier, if you get lost, not sure where you're at, revert back to the home screen. That'll take you to your main shot there. And that's our home picture. Hope this has been informative for you. Again, if you have any questions, please dial our service department at 847-866-2636. Oh, 966-2636. Or visit us on the web at www.thermalcare.com.